Hey, there you are. Hello, everybody. It's, of course, Bigfoot Michigan Rob. Thanks for joining us today on Brunch with Bigfoot Michigan Rob. Got a great show in store for you this afternoon. I appreciate everybody for coming in today. I got William Lunsford joining me. It's always a great time when William comes on. We're going to talk all things Bigfoot today. So thanks to William in advance for coming on in. If this is your first time here, please subscribe to Bigfoot Michigan Rob on YouTube, Texas Front Porch on YouTube, and of course, the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast. If you like what we have to offer you, the super chat's open. Always a great way to help support what we do around here. You can also become a BMR pirate. That's right. About 100 of you and growing strong. Thank you for that. I do appreciate that. You can find us on iHeartRadio, Spreaker Radio, wherever podcasts are found. So that is always appreciated. And I have to, I tell you what, I'm getting pretty excited because coming up here in under a month now, I'm thinking about 3 weeks. We've got the Alabama Bigfoot Conference coming up. Yeah, that's right. June 8th is the conference. It's held in Anniston, Alabama at the Anniston Performing Arts Center. Tex Weston, of course, is our master of ceremonies. Speaker lineup: Barton Nunley, Daryl Denton, the Blondes and the Booze, Jason McLean, Greg Ogles, Martin Groves, yours truly, BMR. Tickets, you guys, are priced pretty fairly. $30 online, $35 at the door. It's brought to you by Sidekicks Paranormal. I like saying that. Sidekicks, thanks to them for their support in this effort. We're also doing a meet and greet June 7th at the Sizzler Steakhouse. It's already booked. However, you won't be turned away at the door. The restaurant will not, and certainly we won't either. So come on down. Let's do a little meet and greet before the festivities on the 8th. Thank you for that. I also got to thank everybody for buying my book. Bigfoot Michigan Rob presents True Cryptid Encounters, Book 1. Find it on Amazon. For those that bought it, when Amazon gives you an email for a review, please leave a review. It does help analytics. I certainly appreciate that. Also, my buddy Will, he's wrote this book. I've read it a couple times already. We're going to talk a little bit about the book as well today. So, Williams, I got the links for William in this video, in this live stream. So check out Searching for the Unfindable, my quest for the Arkansas Bigfoot with Will Lunsford, great author, a researcher. Also, don't forget our lineup throughout the week. It is Mondays is Texas Front Porch, 8 to 11. Tuesday nights, myself and Krista, Beyond BMR, 9 o'clock in the East. Wednesdays, Barton Nunley in Humanoids, live, 9 o'clock in the East. Thursday, right back here, Brunch with Bigfoot Michigan Rob. That kicks off, of course, at 1 o'clock in the East. On Texas Front Porch, he's got a new show with Monica Rollins called Our Paranormal World. That's 8 o'clock Thursdays, but I think that time is changing. I think it's changing. I think that's tonight now. I'll have to double check on that. Thursday, tonight, 9 o'clock, the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast. And if you need more Woo with the Booze, they come back on Friday at 8 o'clock in the East. Sunday, Truth or Tinfoil with Brandy and Randy. And then you got Infamous Minds with Tex on Sunday at 7. It's a little true crime story that he tells people along with Miss Diva. So that takes care of all that business. And with that being said, I'm going to bring up Mr. Lunsford here. Thank you, Keith. Awesome. Appreciate this. Great way to start the show.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Will. How's it going, man?
Everything is going good. Thank everybody for being here. For sure, I always appreciate that. I never take you for granted anytime you take the opportunity to spend time listening to me and Rob. Rob always puts on a good show. Sometimes we have more fun than what we're supposed to have, but it's always a good show. I always enjoy it. Very excited about that Bigfoot conference. Me and my wife are trying to make it to the one in Anniston, Alabama. For $30 prepaid, man, I drink that much Mountain Dew in a daytime. So that's a pretty good price, and to have the respect that you're going to have there. So very, very good. Very excited to be here. It's been an exciting spring for me. Thank you, especially to all our first responders and our veterans for giving us what you've given us, because it means everything in the world to us. Because, like I said, because of what you do, we get to do what we do. So thank you again.
No, I do appreciate that as well. And you also do animal shelter, correct?
Yes, I sure do. We rescue dogs, and oh man, it's been a busy spring for sure. And like I said, that's all. We're not monetized or anything like that. It's just one of those deals where we've been very fortunate and do that out of the goodness of our heart and what goodness I may have. But anyway, it really makes you feel good when you see them, and we actually rehome them. Some we send actually to Michigan, some we send to New Jersey, some we send to Illinois. There, but very glad to do that right there. And so thank y'all for again for listening to that right there. If you get a chance, do adopt one of these dogs. They need good homes. Yeah, especially down here in the South, man. Everybody, you hear the joke that what happens if your porch falls down in a house in the South when 9 dogs die? Well, that's about the truth. That's about how it goes. But we try to do that right there, and I'm very pleased with that right there. Love to be able to do that, and I'm always the beneficiary regardless. I wake up in the morning, and little dogs come up there and start looking me in the face. I don't even have to shave. Man, it's just jump right up and get to go.
Well, that's awesome. And I appreciate what you do. I appreciate what you do for everybody with the shelters, the first responders. You're just a great guy all around. And we're we're pretty good friends. And right out of the get-go, I just want a couple things really quick. Ginger Paranormal gifted 5 Bigfoot Michigan memberships, 5 new pirates, Audacious Amber, awesome super chat. Thank you. And Keith, who lives in the state of Michigan, thanks for that super chat as well to get the show started. It's always a great way. And once again, thanks, Will. And we're gonna get on with this. It's always a good time when you come on, as you said. And I can't wait to meet you. Hopefully, I meet you in Alabama. But I know that our paths, I know they'll cross eventually.
We got to shake hands at the Texas Bigfoot conference, and I ended up with COVID, and so had to leave within like 20 to 30 minutes. So I'm anxious for you and I get to visit. I got to do a visit with Texas about 3 weeks ago personally, and the crew that y'all have. Well, always great people. Some of the same people that's going to be at the conference there. So I always enjoy that, man. Y'all are always right on down the line as far as what you tell people about Bigfoot. You're not out there spinning yarns, spinning tails. You're right down the line. And folks, that's something right there that I will always tell you. Bigfoot is real, 100% real. There's no fakery to it. You don't have to fake it. I actually had a sighting here not too long ago on April the 24th on the way down to Monster Mart of all things. So
down to Monster Mart, really?
I was supposed to fish a bass tournament. And that's when they had the weekend of the Fouke Monster Conference. I was supposed to fish a bass tournament, and so I ended up having to cancel. So Mr. Denny Roberts there, who owns Monster Mart, he said, "Man, can you really reckon you can come down here and help me do some of this merchandise," which I'm always honored to do. And of course, I'll carry my phone with me, man. I've got hundreds of pictures of Bigfoot related things like that. And so I was on the way down there about 6:40 that morning. And it had just started a big rain, big old squall. So I'm sitting there trying to dodge all the potholes of the ponding. And I have a place there where I went years ago to the Ford house where the original Legend of Boggy Creek saga started, where the thing started reaching to the people's house. And so I found some trails that came across. Well, now they've built I-49. As I was going through that, I found trails that actually cross I-49, this same Bigfoot. And so whenever I went down that day, it's about 6:40 in the morning. I'm sitting there, and just as an afterthought, because I was watching this guy behind me speeding with a trailer on his truck, and just as an afterthought, I scanned and then and then there's a Bigfoot, about an 8-foot Bigfoot, black one standing over underneath the tree. So I tried to slam on my brakes. Of course, he nearly hit me, so I had to go on up to the next exit, come back around, come back. Of course, as everybody knows what happens there, as soon as I did, he was already gone. But still, it's always so exhilarating for the amount of Bigfoot sightings that I've had to get to see one. Like I said, they're a beautiful animal if you've never seen it, man. Just solid black, sleek looking coat. I told Denny about it as soon as I got there, and coincidentally met a man that I delivered not too far from his house, and he has him on his property. So again, got an invite there to go down. So it worked out really good for me. So really, really excited about that too. But it's been a good spring. Like I said, you sure helped me to promote my book. I'm actually writing book 2 right now, of all things there. My first book, as you said, was called Searching for the Unfound, My Quest for the Arkansas Bigfoot. And that's it right there, folks. That's not something that I read and just decided to put in there and then tell everybody. That's something that I've experienced, and that's now 47 years of research in the woods, in there with ticks, chiggers, snakes, and Bigfoot. And so to get to tell about that, like I said, very, very honored. My next book, actually, if y'all know Duke Sullivan from the World Bigfoot Radio, Duke helped me to put the title. I had been looking for one. I just bounced some titles there off of Rob as well there. And so my next book, I thought I would just keep it in the line of searching for the unfindable. So it's called Searching for the Unfindable, Finding the Impossible. And I'm going to be talking about some of the places that I found where I'm actually able to go out there. And with the Bigfoot actually recognized myself. They recognized my wife. They recognized Stephen Hill and I. They don't always come up to the, to the truck or to the woods. But again, it's something we can go out there and just about truly, when we go, we truly expect to have a sighting or have some kind of encounter of some way.
You know, I've known you for several years now, and it always seems, Will, that you have that knack, or you always find something. You find a lot of cool pictures, and there's always an experience that you come across. And there's people that are researchers, or they go out looking for Bigfoot or any of these cryptids, and they haven't found squat in 10, 15, 20 years. What do you think? I mean, are you a magnet? Are you like, are you that great looking? I know you got a nice physique. Do they just seek you out?
Well, it's kind of funny because I hear a lot of people talk about, people having that animal presence. I know my wife certainly has it as far as it goes. When I was a UPS man for 35 years, like I said, I'd always carry a dog biscuit in my pocket, but I would have people come up and they say, "How do you make friends with that dog?" Well, just did. He came up to me and said, "That dog hates everybody." He said, "He bites everybody that comes along, even the preacher." He said, "Now, how did you get up there?" So again, whoop that dog biscuit out of my pocket. But so evidently there's some people with the females, it's called Ellie Mae syndrome, where like Ellie Mae clamping on the Beverly Hillbillies. They have some kind of deal with the animals, and the animals, I truly think animals can read your aura. If you don't mind me using that word, your aura.
No, not at all.
And they I think that's part of it. And then too, I have been there. I sent y'all a picture last time of me standing with a 4570 there in the woods up there. One of the places I go, I'm there with Daniel Becker, the friend of mine there,
Yeah,
and Daniel,
chat.
yeah. And so I'm sitting there with a 4570. There's a Bigfoot standing in front of me right there, leaning behind a tree. So I'm hopefully I project that I'm not there to hurt these Bigfoot, these beings, whatever they are. And like I said, we have a lot of babies up there where we're at right now. I've got several pictures of babies this year already. And so I think that's it. But then too, I live in a very good area. I live right here around what's called the 4 states area of Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Oklahoma. Boy, Oklahoma's a hotbed. Oklahoma has a lot of Bigfoot. Arkansas, you look in there and you're right to the base of the Ouachita Mountains. And man, there's Bigfoot all up through right there. There's a highway called Highway 71 here. It's actually when it runs through Fouke, they named it Monster Expressway. But there's right there. And so it runs for 310 miles. And whenever it does, of that, every 8.3 miles, there is a Bigfoot sighting on this one highway that runs down our west coast of the state. So I'm very fortunate to live where I live at. And because of that right there, I think that has a lot to do with the amount of sightings. There's a lot of swamps. Sulphur River is famous, coming down from Texas right there. It's got 3 branches to it, an upper, a middle, and a lower. Even though it's one of the smallest rivers in Texas, it's got actually the largest watershed of all things. And so everything, man, lives down there from, like I say, from tigers to Tarzan. And so to be right there, and then I grew up down there. I actually learned that there were things down there that weren't supposed to be. From an early age, like I said, me and my dad, who was an amateur boat builder, we went down there one day and we had the cane poles sticking out of the back of the back window of the car, going there and do a little fishing. He tied that boat to the top of my mom's vehicle. And so when we got down to the river down there, as we were taking everything off, I happened to look down there at a sandbar. And on this sandbar, there was 2 little baby black looking animals walking on 2 feet, sometimes putting their one hand down, but on 2 feet. I said, "Dad," I said, "is that monkeys right there?" And he goes, "Yep." And he goes, "Look up there on the hill, there's Mama." Well, I never got to see Mama, but the fact that he insinuated Mama was a difference in the size of what these things were. And of course, I'm sure they were Bigfoot at that time. We didn't hardly discuss it anymore after that right there. But I knew that I just think he just didn't want to scare me. But I've been very fortunate with that. Like I said, my research partners, I've got some really great people here who research with me. They're very good men, very, very honest. We share everything with each other. I have no property of my own. They have no property of their own, but everything we do, we share as a group together. And that really makes us successful too. And we try to share with guys, folks here on the podcast and stuff like that. I enjoy being able to take what I have and show people with what we have as far as for tracks, tree structures, pictures, And so that means a whole lot too, because the more that we share out I joke around about the $1 million picture, but folks, there's not $1 million picture. If you get a picture of video or a picture of Bigfoot, then everybody's wanting a video. If you get a Bigfoot, well, how come you hadn't got a body? Well, and all this stuff. So what we're doing is trying to share to let everybody know from the benefit of our experiences of how you can have more Bigfoot sightings or have an encounter or something other like that right there. So very, very, I appreciate you saying that, but I work really hard. Like I said, there may be better researchers, but there's nobody that works any harder. And if y'all haven't met my friend Stephen Hill, Stephen is the same way. Stephen, boy, he's just a crackerjack. I have a friend named Randy Crawford who works with the computers. He's got a couple of monitors on his desk. Any pictures we get, we send to him. He stacks them side by side, making sure we're not having a case of what's called pareidolia, like people see sometimes in the clouds, and they see Jesus riding a motorcycle or something like that right there. That's what I want to make sure that we don't have. I try to show everybody, and even pictures. I've got pictures, what's called a blob squatch. It's Bigfoot, but you can't tell it. And so I try not to show those because, it doesn't necessarily benefit the cause, because we've all got other pictures there that we can share. But again, very, very fortunate to live in the area that I do. I work really hard at it. I study at it. If I'm, not out in the woods, I'm generally in the woods generally about at least 4 days a week. And if I'm not in the woods, I'm cruising the woods to see what I can see just by accident. So again, it's a lot of time involved, but when you do, there's nothing like it, so.
Well, you did say a couple key words here too. Well, first of all, backtrack just a little bit. Yeah, when people, it's always skeptical when someone sends you a picture, but that's a bad thing. There are pictures where they continually want to make fun of somebody, but they're maybe not making fun of people, but what they want to do is they just want to nitpick and they want this proof. And what exactly is proof, right? I mean,
Right.
and every picture I've seen, you can't tell a lot of times, but you have to examine it. But what you just said earlier, though, the reason you have all these fantastic experiences is the key word to me is you're always out there looking. Even if you're not going researching, quote unquote, you're still looking. If you're traversing down the interstate, you're looking into the wood line. And if you happen to come up upon something that looks odd, you might pull aside and check it out briefly, depending where you're going, right? I mean,
Exactly, Rob. That's how I had this last sighting. Like I said, I was more concerned with this guy behind me pulling the trailer, running into me. But then after I went underneath this underpass, it's about 200 yards from the underpass of one of these county roads there. I went underneath there and I'm like, oh, shoot. So anyway, like I said, I just did the double take, and then there he was. Man, so lucky. But I'll take that kind of sighting. You can't practice skill in Bigfoot as such. They have a whole lot more to do with it than what we do. So.
Yeah, I've heard this said many times, Bigfoot finds you. You don't necessarily find them, but
That's
you
right.
can find them if you put in the work, the effort like you do. It's almost like a full-time job for a lot of us. For those of us that are retired that can do it, that's right. You find a lot of great evidence. You mentioned some earlier too, which I got to ask you about because I never.
Yeah.
You said these now people, everybody's got various opinions, thoughts on Bigfoot, as we all know, right? I welcome them all. You mentioned these animals. So I got to ask you, you think Bigfoot is an animal, or is there much to that verbiage?
Well, on something like that, Rob, it always seems like it offends somebody regardless of what,
Right.
What name you use. Back whenever I grew up, there were three things you classified in the universe: animal, mineral, vegetable, or gas, or four of gas. And so I know it's not gas. I know it's not mineral. I know it's not vegetable. So I say animal. Human beings are animals. As far as that goes. So I just use that in a loose term. I'm not trying to offend anybody. Everybody's like, oh, well, they're people. Don't use that. Well, you can't do that. You can't worry about it. You got to know the way because I think there's nothing any more majestic than what we have living in our American woods right now called Bigfoot. Some people don't like being called Bigfoot, but then you talk to some other people, our Bigfoot don't mind being called Bigfoot. So it's not a case of to sit there. Now, I know like Florida skunk ape. People say, well, what is a Florida skunk ape? Is it an animal or is it? I don't know. We really don't know. But like I said, it's a thing of where we're trying to find some kind of classification. Most of the ones down here around Boggy Creek, y'all have all heard of the legend of Boggy Creek and the Fouke monster. The Fouke monster looks more like a daggum big gorilla. I mean, he is monstrous. And his face, he's got kind of a flat face. He's got the big old black eyes. The mouth just goes straight across the cat. The massive shoulders, the thin waistline. And so he actually looks there. I've never seen one, and I've seen the Fountain Monster and his kinfolks several times, and there's not a one of them that I've seen that looks like a person. Now, some in some other places there, I can go with that right there. But this one, and the people I've interviewed around here, living here all my life, fixing to turn 65 years old, and I've never had a single person say to me, well, that Fountain Monster looks like a person. They'll say, no, it looks like a big giant ape. So it could be different kinds. I'm not trying to, again, offend anybody, Rob.
No,
No. Yeah.
But you know that you get that. I'm surprised that people let the Fouke monster subject go on because people are offended by the term monster.
Well, anything we don't understand, especially out in the woods like that, when you're out in the woods and you're there by yourself and your car's a mile and a half away and it's getting dark and you see something that you don't understand, we tend to classify those things as, quote, monsters. It's not necessarily a derogatory term. It's just something that we don't understand. And so that thing got its name back there. Back in 1971, back there, it was called the Fountain Monster, and it just kind of stuck as far as it goes. But again, I'm sure I and anybody else who used that term, whether it's monster, being, creature, whatever, it's not meant to be any kind of derogatory term, folks. It's just something that you're trying to find a classification to it. And as right now, I mean, people say, oh, yeah, well, it's a person. Well, you prove it. I can't prove it. I can't prove Bigfoot's a person. I can't prove Bigfoot. We've got some DNA, but then so many people are, just like with the DNA that we got, everybody's, oh, well, no, that DNA was this. So it's a very, very hard situation to try to classify this. And like I said, and I am open to anything that happens. I'm willing I want to learn, folks. I don't know everything. There's not an expert in here. I don't care if they're from whatever TV show you've got on there. There's not an expert in this whole group that does the research. There's always some of us in there. If it was, we would have Bigfoot in a quote enclosure, unquote, kind of like Jurassic Park, where they're at least within their own kind of woods and things like that, but that we could observe and actually make their lives better. That's kind of my whole thing for doing this right here. I wouldn't shoot one. It would be the very last resort where he was either fixing to hurt me or my family. And like I said, I stood there with a rifle. I stood there with a pistol. Bigfoot's out there looking at me. They have no problem with me being there just like that. The one with Daniel, like I said, that one's probably, 50 feet in front of me. Daniel's behind me. We're taking the picture, and you see that Bigfoot leaning out behind the tree right there. So,
yeah. And again, I bring up that because I'm to the point, I've been doing this is like my third year doing this. And I'm to the point now because I used to get flack. Sometimes I would call Bigfoot or Sasquatch. I might refer to it as a creature, a monster, something paranormal, which to me, Bigfoot to me is paranormal. Paranormal is something we have no idea what it is. That's
right. That's right.
And I used to get kind of mad when people say, Rob, it's not a creature, it's an ancient human or whatever. Hey, listen, it doesn't matter to me what you label these creatures.
That's right.
Because it's from different regions of the country. It's your opinion and my concern. So I really don't get mad anymore when people say, Rob, why did you call it this, that, and the other? Because you can call it 15 different things. It's all the same thing. And to me, it's either Bigfoot or Sasquatch. I mean, those are the two terms I use 99% of the time.
And that's the names we've adopted. And again, I've got no problem with that right there because what they are, like I know they are a very majestic creature. They're the top, in my opinion, top of the food chain, the top of whatever the line is there. When you see one, like I said, you realize just how fortunate you are. You've seen something that's not supposed to exist, that's defied classification throughout time. Probably the closest to it would be one of those that Noah put on the ark other than that. But it's there and you get to see it and you're like, oh my gosh, man. So many people, they classify it as a quote spiritual experience. Well, it is, but it's not religious, but it's a spiritual experience. You see it. I know one lady there and she said, whenever I saw one, all of a sudden I got a feeling of peace. She said, I never even thought for 1 minute they were real. And she's a very intelligent lady. And she said, I actually got a feeling of peace. That's what I want to hear on this stuff. Because like I said, I do this just, not monetize. I do it for fun, have a good time doing it. And like I said, I get to hopefully help people, things that I share to help other people have experiences. And the better we do, they say all press is good press. Well, the better we do with that right there, the better chance that we got of getting these things classified and of everybody seeing one.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And I tell you, I got a couple pictures. We were talking about pictures earlier, and I picked up some. I chose a couple that were kind of obscure, which just kind of goes back to our point what we talked about earlier, right?
That's right. Exactly right.
So I'm just going to go in here really quickly here. So for people that want to ask questions, I normally have them starred because I usually have somebody help me with that. I can't see all your guys' questions because they don't get starred. So I do apologize if I don't get to any of them or some of them. So I just want to let everyone know that up front. Okay, so here's what I'm going to go with this one.
Okay.
What do we have here?
Well, this right here is something that I got this year in January. What you got right there, a friend of mine named Jim Owenby. Jim actually hollowed out a log for me about 4.5 foot tall. And at the very top, he cut the top off. And then he put some hinges on there, then put a latch like you put on somebody's old screen door or something like that right there. And then he cut out a little eye socket there where I could put the lens of my camera. What you're actually looking at right there, you see two little white things there. Those are actually, we have a Bigfoot up here that is actually a white Bigfoot. You can see right there, there's two of those there, those creatures. One's above, it looks like his brother's shoulder, and there's a brown one right there on top. But what you're looking at in the bottom left-hand side of that corner, and what you can see in this one here on the right-hand side, that's actually that baby Bigfoot putting his hand up there because the light from the camera, these cameras that I have, they're really, really glow. And so he's putting his hand up there so that it can have some visibility and not be looking to the lights on that camera. So that's right there is probably about, from what I showed on my timestamp on my camera, it's probably about 6:15 in the morning. So just as the sun is kind of starting to come up, but that's actually a two white baby Bigfoot and then a brown one. And this is probably the fourth or fifth white Bigfoot that we've gotten a picture of.
Okay. I'm going to move on to a couple more because I want you to take first on this because this is another subject that people kind of flip a coin on when it comes to tree structures or wood structures. To me, when I got some feedback. I don't know if I think it's coming from your computer. Do you have their speakers on?
I do have my speakers on. Let me see if it's his fan right quick. Y'all excuse me for this here. Maybe it could be let's see if that cuts any of that out right there, Rob. Hey, I like my new shirt. Ohio Bigfoot Conference sent to me by my friend Daniel Becker, but he always keeps me well dressed there. Is it any better, Rob, or can I turn it down possibly?
No. Right now you're fine. Right now, when you got closer to the mic, I heard it was. I could tell. Sometimes if you put in an earpiece or headphones, it blinks it out. But right now we're fine.
Okay, great.
Well, Daniel Becker, yeah, he sent me a couple t-shirts from Alaska from Pup. He's a great guy. I'm going to be going on one of his podcasts when I get some time because I was supposed to be on last Monday, but I had something going on in the family, so I had to reschedule. But yeah, he's a great guy. And Stephen Hill's in the group, and Duke, three of your research partners and friends, of course. So when we talk about these structures, I find the ones that are interwoven or intricately put together, I find that to be a substance. And then you have some there where you can think that it's like deadfall or Mother Nature. So I'm gonna move on.
Okay.
Here's something you sent me.
Okay.
What we got going on here?
Hey, this right here is a piece of land that has just there where the trees that you see right there is actually the tree line right there. It stops. It's been cut and cleared. There was nothing in that field whatsoever. And I went back there about 3 weeks ago, and there's this freestanding X right there in the middle of the picture that you have right there, and right on the edge of where this forest is. You can kind of see a trail where it goes behind that top left-hand side arm of that X. And that thing is freestanding. He's come and jabbed it in the ground and put it in there. It wasn't done by anybody because it'd been muddy as all get out in there. We've had a lot of rain here in Arkansas. But that X was put up there, like I said, about 3 weeks ago, whenever before it was just totally flat. There was nothing out there. It had been a bush hog cleared up with the brush right there. And all of a sudden we get back there and there's this one X right there in the middle. I just thought, oh my gosh, whoever he's communicating to, whether it's the rest of his clan or whether it's other people to stay away, but that was right there. There was no reason for it to be there. And there were no tracks except mine walking up to that thing.
So you think that these structures are a form of communication? What's your thought process on that?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a form of communication. It could be to us. I find a lot of them, Rob, that are right there just off the road there. I've actually, me and my wife, one time during the summer a couple of years ago, went down every day at the same time. There was a Bigfoot building a structure down there. He was actually building a teepee, what we call the teepee, about what you would expect a teepee to look like.
Yeah.
We went down there and every day and we took 5 to 6 pictures at the same time at that time, and then we'd allow 5 minutes, and we go the next time, take 5 pictures that minute to look at the shadows and everything. And this Bigfoot was actually adding pieces of wood, pieces of limb, trunks, whatever you want to call it, to this structure, and it was every day. And so it wasn't somebody, because I was spending a lot of, once I'd take her back and come back, it wasn't somebody that was sitting there doing this. Right, this was actually a Bigfoot that was actually adding to the structure, whatever it was meant for. I truly think they mark them for territory. Sometimes I think they mark them, for some of the other ones to actually follow or something like that. It could actually be sometimes where they actually get bored and start, just start doing that just as something to do. I don't really believe that as much as I do that. I think it means something to them. I would love to know what it is, but I find a lot of these down here. Now, once I get up in the Ouachita up there, the base of the Ouachita Mountains, up there where we have another one of our research areas, there's not very many tree structures at all. But down here around Fouke, man, I mean, that is one of their main things that they do. And if you've talked to Duke over there, you've seen some of the structures he has there in Montana. They're colossal. The X's on their trees cross at 60 feet tall.
Well, yeah, I mean, the ones that Duke has on World Bigfoot Central, subscribe to Duke if not already. He's got some mammoth. Now, if I were to see that in person, I would be like in awe, and he sees it all the time, of course. He's used to it. I've never, I mean, to me, and that does signify something, especially these structures where they're uprooted and put upside down.
That's
and the top
right.
of the tree is buried in the ground. That's not a human being. That's not two people. There's not two jokers out there hoaxing it.
No, they don't have enough busy time there if that's what they're doing, but they're not, because they're so big. It would actually take a piece of heavy equipment. I actually took my preacher down one day to the edge of the Sulphur River down here, coming out of Lake Wright Patman, which goes into Arkansas there, in the home of the quote Boggy Creek Monster. And there was one that was turned upside down and post hole. And I showed that to him. I said, "You ready?" And he goes, "For what?" I said, "Look right there." He goes, "What am I looking at?" I said, "Take a look at the roots on that tree. Roots were about 10 foot high." And he goes, "Oh my gosh." And his exact words, "I see it, but I don't believe it. But I still see it." I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "What did that?" And I said, "Oh, you know what did it." Of course, he knows what I do. And then not too far after that, we found a track crossing this one road right there. So again, the upside down structure, when you see it, you realize. And I found several trees that have been post holed into the ground like that. Like I said, where the roots are growing downward, or the limbs are growing downward, whereas they used to be upwards like that. And I've got 5 or 6 pictures like that. And it's always a pleasure to find. Matter of fact, there's one in my book right there that a friend of mine sent me from Clarksville, Texas, but there was only one. And the guy whose land it was on, from what I understand, evidently he just couldn't stand it being uneven, so he put another one right there beside it. But there's a picture of that upside down structure right there. But we find that here all the time, and they show, Rob, show such intelligent design of these structures right here. It's not just something just thrown. It's not snow low. They have a, whatever their purpose is, the way that they're woven. Number two, I used to be a powerlifter, and so was my son. We've gotten together and did everything that we could do. And buddy, you can't move these limbs like that.
No, you can't.
You can't do it. And I've been with some guys, a lot stronger than me. I used to have a 565-pound military press, and that's the Lord's honest truth right there. I couldn't bend them like that right there. And so I had my son, who also, like I said, was at 17 years old, bench press 400 pounds. He kind of, I don't know where he got all the strength from, but wherever it was, he got it. But he's stout as a bull. Like I said, we together worked to try to, and we couldn't do it. So it shows that intelligent design. It's impossible nearly for human beings to manipulate some of those things. Now,
Well,
yeah.
You're right. I was talking to some joke. I was calling this guy a joker. He was arguing with me that when we were talking about it, we were looking at a couple pictures, and these structures, they were fabricated, interwoven. I tell you what, you guys, and it was so, a human being can't even do that. Number one, why are you going to bother to do that, for one?
That's right. That's exactly
right. If you're trying to hoax somebody, you're going to spend all this. You're going to make your fingers bleed. Your arms are going to be sore. It's hard to do. It's going to take you hours upon hours to even put out something 3 feet, a 3 feet swatch. Why would you do it, for one? And number two, we can't do it anyway. You go in your backyard, and I can go in my backyard and rip out and cut down twigs and branches and all these other vegetation. and I put a big pile on my back deck, I can't make anything out of that. I mean, without rope or string or
Right.
something else.
These dudes, and the thing about a lot of these, Rob, that you see that you've seen of mine, they're not. Like I said, some of them you can see from the road, but a lot of these are 3.5 miles into the woods back there,
Yeah,
and all of a
right.
sudden they're there. The chances of anybody finding that on a hoax were slim and
Yeah.
none.
No, you're
And
right
and
about that.
so again, like I said, you're fighting the heat, you're fighting the walk. A lot of the kinds of wood that are used to make these structures are not native to the place that you actually find. They actually bring them in from some other places. And I think you'll find that anybody who is having work with structure will tell you that same thing. They do, and their designs. We have some down here. Like I said, I've got just as it's a joke, but it's not a joke. I have one I call Tim Trevo. Every time you see his structures, he'll bend that sucker over and he'll pin it to the ground. He'll have something on top, and then and so then he'll generally put a mark another side to the side. Then I've got another one called Malcolm X. Malcolm X, what is his main thing? He loves to make X's down there. I mean, they have their own way that they build their structure. And you can find that structure a mile away, and you can just about truly realize which creature or which being, Bigfoot, which Bigfoot made these structures like that right there. I've actually seen one made overnight. There was no way on October 15th, 2016. And I went down that morning to check, left and went to Russellville, Arkansas, which is 3 miles away. Went to a little concert, came back that next morning. And so the first thing I did since I got home, I was like, well, a little bit of time before church, I ran down there. And this structure had been built, and man, it's massive. There's logs in there that are big around as the middle part of my body. And like I said, they're about 23, 24 foot long. One of them is actually stabbed into the ground like this right here. You can't pick it up. You can't move. It's just a short piece like that. And the rest was built into X's or leaning or things like that with 7 new tracks all the way around it. So it wasn't just the structures that I found, but actually with the tracks. It wasn't any, wasn't nobody down there doing it. Because like I said, you're dealing with snakes, you're dealing with mosquitoes, you're dealing with heat.
Yeah.
And then so it's not possible. I mean, anything is possible, so to speak,
Yeah.
but it's not logical. Let me put that way. It's not logical that was done, especially those that I find that are 3.5 miles there into the woods. The one that I went to Montana to be with Duke up there and look around. There's no way you're walking up a hill right there
No.
with a limb like that right there. And man, I mean,
No, you're
I
not.
wore myself slap out. Now, whenever I saw a pillow, man, I instantly fell in love because I couldn't wait to get in bed there because after a day of looking through those heavy woods like that. But when you see that, folks, it is real. It's something that means something to them. We don't understand it. Maybe we will one time.
Yeah.
But I've got a picture book of over 100 tree structures, and when I can show you where they go over, they go under, they go around, and there's no way that it grows that way.
Yeah. And by the way, Will does have pictures in this book, his first book. So check it out get it before the second one comes out.
Yeah.
Everybody.
It's my pictures are actually in color. I went through a service there that the rest of them they just wanted to give you black and white, and that wasn't. You get from different pictures, different filters, you get different highlights that are brought up to the picture to show you something individualistic to it. That's why I had color pictures put in there. I had them put color pictures in there, and to do that right there, and you can see so much more that way than you can, just by the black and whites as a rule. Now, there's a time when black and white is good, but then, like I said, to have that right there, and again, it gives the creature such majesty. I've got the one that's there in front of my camera there, just like I'm doing right here, and he's got that arm stuck out like that, and he's got a Snickers bar in his hand. He's laying on the ground, and he's sitting there. There's nothing going to keep him from getting that Snickers bar. And it's just hilarious because they've got such a sweet tooth, man. But he's there, and he's going to get it. He's got it in his hand. His hand is wrapped around. You can see the top of the thumb right there in the hand like that right there. So what they did, like I said, and I built a little altar there for him to put those Snickers right there. So again, they identify with those, the trees and things like that.
So you have no problem with being with habituating that or leaving them candy or food or peanut butter or Snickers bars?
Well, so far I don't because again I think that they recognize my motives are good. My motives are not to trick them in there and try to shoot somebody. I do put them sometimes in front of my cameras to get a picture, but that's a pretty fair swap. I think getting a Snickers bar, for a daggum picture that I'm going to show to everybody, that's going to have everybody, not everybody, but people who said, "Oh my gosh, man, Bigfoot is real." To get him some kind of a claim to where he's recognized all this thing for a little bitty bite-sized Snickers bar, I think that's a pretty good trade for the Bigfoot. Actually.
Yeah, and I think that if you have a research area that's miles away from your home, well, first of all, I will say this: I know some Bigfoot have actually followed people right back to their residency,
Right.
right where they live.
Exactly.
We know we've heard those stories.
Yes,
But I
sir.
think the gifting out in the out in the woods, 5, 10 miles away, wherever, I think that's safer. And I'm
Yeah.
not suggesting it's not safe, but I had heard stories from several people where they
Sure.
had their home was in the middle of the woods, and in the middle where they live, there was Bigfoot 100 yards away at the tree
Right.
line.
Right.
And I heard stories of people would gift them. They would give them food, candy, or rocks, colored
Right.
rocks, crystals, and the Bigfoot would enjoy it. And they would trade. They would leave something else, right, as an offering. But then I hear that I guess for whatever reason, people start getting bored with it and stop giving food, peanut butter, and then they noticed that now the Bigfoot got a little irritated and were getting closer to their home
Right.
now, looking in their windows, walking on their deck, slapping the side of the house. As much as I'm into the Bigfoot subject and would love to see another one, I don't know that I'd want him physically peering in my window at night.
The man who works for me for 30 years is my lawn maintenance man. And I did not know it till last year, but he was going to buy my truck. And so he said, "Why are you selling it?" I said, "Well, I'm into the woods a lot of time and I need something that's dependable. If I need it to start and it doesn't start, I'm in trouble. And you're going to have another guy living in this house paying your salary." He goes, "Oh, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about that big gorilla, right?" We're talking about the one at Fouke, like I said, that people think is a big gorilla. He said, "You talk about that big gorilla?" Said he come to my house and said he take his hand, he wipe like he's looking at that he's wiping away the dust and starts doing like this to my little boy. I don't want that happening to me, but when that happens to me, I don't know that I can handle something like that. But I know a lot of people who that's happened to. There's one man that's actually notable in the Bigfoot community. His name's Bobby Hamilton. He has been with the show there with it's called for whatever reason they named it Killing Bigfoot, and then Bigfoot is real. But Bobby actually had one. His first encounters were as a child where the thing would come to the window and try to do the same thing with him. And so it does. I don't want him coming to my house, being in the woods like that, like you said. Now I've had one there that she actually follows. I think it's female because the way her foot is shaped, but she has actually followed me for 80 yards up there to I was leaving the candy bars up there. And it was on a rainy day. And Stephen came about 30 minutes after I had left. And he said, "Have you been up here at what we call ground zero?" I said, "Yeah." "How'd you know?" He sent me some pictures. She's followed me 80 yards to go up there and try to find one of them candy bars. So it's hilarious. And so, but I think that Bigfoot recognizes me. She's actually put up there. As soon as I have left, within 5 minutes, she's standing by where my door was parked. This footprint is right there by where she stands, right in between my footprints, actually. And where mine goes in about 1/8 of an inch, hers goes in about 2.5 inches. So again, that's one of those things where I think they recognize me. Now there's some people, as you have said, Rob. There's some people all of a sudden they quit bringing the treats, and when they do, man, the Bigfoot's pretty upset about it. And there's one account, I can't remember what show it's on, where the man said the thing actually just checked him like a football shiver, like you see some of these linemen do, and actually put
Man,
him on the ground. Man, I don't want that happening to me neither. Now,
I think if I got the forearm shiver by a Bigfoot, I'd probably have a chest bone. My breastplate would break. Yeah.
It's funny. We had a little baby there that we were interacting with, and we have what's called the gifting stump. And that booger we would put out Legos, and that booger would actually go out there and play with the Legos. We've actually got a picture of him leaning across the stump right there. And we would put rocks, like you said, rocks. We put golf balls. We put those kitty cat balls that had the little bell in it. When you shake it, you can hear it. And we would do things like that. And this thing would come up, and he would rearrange them. We would take pictures of them before we would leave and come back, and it would be rearranged. He couldn't stand green marbles for whatever reason. If you put green marbles on that stump, his first thing to do is just pull them and put them as far away as his little arms will reach. But the rest of the time, like I said, but we've actually got pictures of him sitting there playing with Legos. I mean, so they do. They get never had any trouble with him or mom or anything else like that. Most of the time that was done seemed to be done at night. But it was actually started by accident by my preacher son whenever he left a little Debbie cosmic cake there and he forgot it. I'd taken him with me. And so he said, "Man, I forgot my cake." He said, "Will you get it when you go?" I said, "Sure." So I go the next day and the cosmic cake is not there. But then there's these rocks that have been left on top of this. My buddy Randy Crawford is with me. Randy goes, "Did you put these rocks up here?" I said, "No, I didn't put them up there." And he goes, "Well, I don't know what did." Well, sure enough, I started laughing. That was the very same stump that where Tyron had left his cosmic cake. And so that started it. And then Stephen, living pretty close to that area, he was able to go in there and refresh it all the time. Man, we had a ball to seeing what this thing could do. But this little juvenile actually played with Legos.
Oh wow. You mentioned something earlier about tracks, and I finally found a picture that I want to pull up here really quickly.
Okay.
I was typing in chat. I saw there was some commotion going on in chat, and I can't read none of it. So Duke's doing his job. He's doing a clean sweep of the house, I guess. I don't know.
Good. I appreciate that.
Yeah, but we don't get many trolls here. So
Yeah,
thanks, Duke.
I'm not here to fuss with anybody. I'm not here to tell anybody a lie. I can make enough mess for my own self without doing it intentionally. So anything that you hear is not meant to stroke anybody's anger or anything else like that. I'm telling you what's happened to me and what's happened to my researchers in our group there.
Yeah, I don't know if it was relevant to even what we were talking about, but I can't read the
Yeah.
chat too much, but I'm paying attention to Will. But anyway, I want to show everyone this picture about a track. It's a track, I believe it's a footprint.
Yep,
And
that
I
right there. Actually, I found that about 4 weeks ago, and there's a place that it's called Douglasville, Texas, and the man who owns this property right there, so coincidentally and luckily, he owns this gas line where I had actually seen a Bigfoot walking down this gas line one day. And man, I slammed on the brakes. My dolly ran and hit the metal door of my truck. And whenever I did, wham, when it did, the Bigfoot turned around and looked back like what you see, Patty. And like you had an imaginary fast forward, took off and went into the woods like that. Well, as luck would have it for me, I was able to find this man who's about a little bit younger than me, and he owns that doggone property. Well, that right there, whenever we went about a month ago there, and he had some people that were actually camping on the land. And there was a lady, I'm not going to out her. I don't know. She's very, very good. She's a researcher, but I don't know that she wants it known that she's a Bigfoot researcher yet. If so, I'll tell you the next time. Anyway,
yeah.
she and I are walking, and I looked down there and I said, "Oh, look at here." And so we stopped and she looked, and sure enough, that right there, Rob, I guarantee you that right there is a hand. Now, there was not a single,
Well,
there was not a deer track there leading up to it. It's in one of the little puddles of mud. There wasn't a deer track. There wasn't a hog track. This right here is actually, like I said, was like a hand, and you can see, especially on the thumb right there, where the thumb
yeah.
be turned sideways.
Well,
And so,
when I look at this, I see a hand. First thing I thought was not a foot, a hand.
right,
And then you see at the bottom of the hand how it narrows out like the palm, but it gets very
right,
narrow.
yeah,
And I was thinking, when I look at this, my first thought was this, and correct me if you think I'm off base. To me, not Bigfoot. I'm thinking a hand of maybe like another cryptid, like a dog man.
it could be.
Because look at the fingers are thin. They
Right,
seem like there's long nails at the end of the
right,
digits, but how the narrowness of the base of the hand down here gets really
right.
narrow. And I would think Bigfoot's hand would be like ours, but 10 times bigger.
Well, I've got a picture of a Bigfoot hand that I found. It's 14 inches long, and the fingers are all about probably on that. Probably I'm gonna say probably eight to 8.5 inches on that right there. And the funny thing about a Bigfoot hand on a print, like I said, most of the times one of these two fingers will be bent, like what you see mine, like there. It's kind of bent,
Yeah.
but that right there is not. So I was with you. I thought I spoke to the lady there. Like I said, she's a real good researcher, and I said, what do you think? No, that's a handprint. Yeah, I wasn't sure what it was either, Rob. I know there's been dog man seen in that area, but it was on the same gas line that I saw a Bigfoot on about 13 years ago.
Okay.
And I just thought that was just so coincidental, which proves, like I said, when you have an area that they home in on, they have a home base, they're there. And so when I saw that one, and then to see that handprint right there, and like I said, there's not a hog print, another deer track going to it. That is a handprint. It may look like it's because of the way the mud goes to the right, but that is a handprint.
Yeah, and I got to ask you about. So I've always wanted to ask you this, and I don't think I ever did. It's kind of a story. Some people might have heard it or not, but I don't think I ever asked you this. I wanted your opinion on something. My brother hunt. Now I know you used to hunt, correct?
Right. Yes, he'll do. You can look
Okay.
behind my shoulder and you see that 8 point I killed last year there.
Yeah, and I know you're a very good fisherman because I know you got a big bass somewhere in your house.
I do. It's over here on my left hand
Okay,
side. I've actually
right.
got a
So
13-pounder that I turned to loose. So.
you know, really quickly, I love watching those Bassmasters classics on TV. I don't know why. Watching a guy in a Ranger bass boat fishing, I just like seeing those lunkers. You know, when they bring them in, man.
Man, those guys are so good at what they do. You know, people take it for granted. Oh, well, fishing ain't no sport. Get out there 5 days in a row, getting up
Yeah.
at 4 o'clock in the morning, do all that, sit through the different kinds of weather, do all that fishing, then go home, get you a little nap, get you some snacks, and get up and do the same thing the very next day. Those
Oh,
guys are very, very good.
and I will call them pros because you can watch. You much like Bigfoot, you could be a researcher for 10 years, but you might not be very good at it. You never even seen a track or a broken limb, right? With
Right.
some of these guys, I could be in the same area fishing the same spot, the same coverage of the lake, and I could fish for 10 hours and say, this is dead. There ain't no fish here. When these pros will get in there and in less than 20 minutes, they already got 2 4-pound bass.
Exactly.
You just know it's a skill to that. There really is.
It really is. Like I said, they're like you said about the Bigfooters. I actually learned more about Bigfoot from bass than what I learned from the hunting, because Bigfoot tends
Yeah.
to walk around the edge. They tend to inhabit the high spots and things. About like what bass, they have their own travel ways that they use on, by habit on stuff like that. And so I did. I have really learned more, like I said, about Bigfoot from bass. But those guys, I fished against a lot of those guys. Or there's some days you can go out and being an amateur, you can beat the socks off them guys, but you're not going to do it as a habit. Every dog has his day. Every blind hog finds an acorn. But man, when you go out there and you see these guys and what they do, you get a deep appreciation. And I have a friend that actually, he was the first person to ever win $1 million in a bass tournament, and so of course. Changed his life forever. But if there was ever anybody that deserved it, it's him. He's a very nice, humble guy. Always glad to share information with kids. Boy, you see kids come up to him, he gets a smile on his face like he goes back to being a kid as well. So again, good people. But and I actually have a video on my phone, and I'll show it to somebody personally, because I can't get his release yet. But he was on Bassmaster, and he's fishing down on St. John's River in Florida, and he's actually got a Bigfoot in front of him. And on this clip, you hear him say, "Ooh, that's scary." Then all of a sudden you hear back there in the background. I sent him a message, and so far he hasn't answered me back. But whenever he does, I'm gonna share that with people. And if I don't get to, you'll just have to trust. There's a Bigfoot behind me right now. So
Yeah. Oh, I see. That's a female. That's a little squatch.
that's a little squatch. Yeah.
All right.
She's my partner, man. I couldn't do this without her. She helps me get all this stuff done. Thank you to my wife for what she does for
Oh
that.
yeah. This is a point in the show I want to take a quick couple seconds to thank everybody, since I'm going solo today without a partner. Ginger Paranormal, thanks for gifting the 5 Bigfoot Michigan Rob memberships,
Great
5
gift.
new pirates, Audacious Amber, Keith, and Catherine for your awesome super chats. Thank you. Don't forget, if you're new here, subscribe to Bigfoot Michigan Rob on YouTube, Texas Front Porch, The Blondes and the Booze, and my buddy Tex. Well, my buddy actually Duke down there, World Bigfoot Central, not already. So we want to get that out there. Don't forget our conference, June 7th and 8th. If you're in Alabama, or if you got nothing to do, late notice, I know, but come on out and have a good time with us. So thank you for that. If you're new, please subscribe. Thank you. Hit that like button. And so with that being said, I'm done with that. So I always wanted to ask you this, and this is something that happened to my brother. Now, as we mentioned, I'm going back to about hunting. I hear something now in the background. Okay, it's gone. So my brother, well, every time I talk, it comes on, I think. I'm hearing an echo all of a sudden.
Let me back up and see if that does. My wife just started her car. She had to go down her dad's.
Oh, no, it's not. Well, no, it's not that. But anyways, okay, so I want you to listen to this and give me your opinion. So my brother, 20 years a hunter, 25 years. And I had my encounter in 2018. So he got interested in Bigfoot around 2018. And then he says, man, throughout my entire life, Rob, I've never seen or experienced anything. Not that he was looking, because if you don't care about Bigfoot, you're not going to you're not going to
Right.
look for the evidence. So he's more in tune to it when he gets to the forest. So he called me all excited one day. I'm surprised he even got a signal. And he goes, Rob, man, I think I had a Bigfoot experience. He goes, no, I didn't see a Bigfoot. But he goes, you got to listen to this story. Thanks, Linda. So, yeah, maybe the speakers are a little too loud. I don't know.
Okay, let me try to turn
It's
this
only
down.
it's only when I talk.
Okay, let me see.
Oh, that's perfect right there. Well,
okay, let's see.
Okay.
Let's see if it'll do it again. Let's see. How about that, Rob? Is any better?
Oh,
I
yeah.
apologize. I said this is a brand new computer. We're trying to get it.
Yeah. No, it's a lot better. Yeah, I don't hear myself now. So thank you. So anyways, so he's all excited. He goes, okay, Rob, I found this. He shot a deer. He lined up a deer. He's up in his tree blind, right? He's looking down. He found a deer. He shot it. He knew he knows he hits it, gets down, and he picks up the tracks, the trail, follows the blood and everything else, following it, following it. He said he must have followed 100 yards. Now, everybody listening, and Will included, he's been doing this for 20 years, 25 years. He's tracked deer. He's been a hunter 20 years, so he knows what he's doing. Okay. Then all of a sudden, he's in the woods, and it breaks into a meadow, and the blood leads to this big tree in the middle of this meadow, and there's some other surrounding trees, not nearly the size of this tree though.
Right.
So he stops, he looks around because he notices at the base of this wide tree, he knows the deer fell there.
Right.
And he can see the body outline in the ground, right?
Right.
And he goes, "Where the hell is my deer?" But now he's looking around. There's no human beings. There's no other hunters miles from this location. He doesn't hear any four-wheelers, because the first thing you thought, maybe somebody came in and snatched.
Are you there, buddy? We got a freeze frame here. Okay, we got some technical difficulties here, Rob.
Show tracks. It's
Yeah.
still.
Okay, there we go.
Are we back now? Yeah, I don't know
Yeah,
what
we're
happened
back.
there.
Yeah.
Okay. They are working on my power lines around here, and I
Oh,
noticed but anyway, am I good now? Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
So we're up to the part where the deer is gone. No evidence of humans around to take his deer. Frankly, not enough time to do it anyways without being caught. So he's looking, and then he sees all of a sudden going up the tree. He looks at this big tree, and he sees blood spatter or a blood trail that goes from the ground up about 8-9 feet. And it stops. Then it stops at this big branch, but no deer, but nothing. The deer's not up there. You thought maybe, a mountain lion is known to grab their prey and take them up in the trees. Nothing like that. Gone. So again, as he's talking to me on the phone, he goes, "You think that was maybe a Bigfoot that snatched my deer and took off, went up with it in the trees?" And then he says, which I find funny, swung like Tarzan from tree to tree and got out of there. I think, no, I don't think they do that. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think they're not monkeys. They're too heavy. Or the average limb, they're going to snap the limb and fall. So I said, I don't know what that was. I'm thinking, well, I'm asking you, I think it probably was a Bigfoot or something paranormal, perhaps, but it was not a mountain lion or cougar. And in fact, there's not too many in these parts, maybe one per every 500,000 animals.
Yep. And then that as many as familiar to me is my wife calling me when we got fried chicken for supper, because I have got about 8 different people I have interviewed, and they have had the same thing happen, including myself. I killed a big 7-point, probably about, I'm gonna say probably maybe 18 years ago, something like that. Watched him drop, sit there, and a good hunter tends to wait about 15 to 30 minutes to let everything settle down, to let this deer, quote, bleed out without stressing it or anything else, so whenever I got from where I had shot this deer and went to where I saw him fall, and watched him the whole time I was in my tree. And by the time I got down and walked over there, my deer was gone. Like I said, there was a blood spatter there where he had bled all the way out, but my deer was gone. I thought, well, you've lost your mind. I went back with some flagging tape. I carry flagging tape with me. Would flag that place right there so I could see it, tied around a limb, went back to my stand, looked again. I was looking at the right place where the deer had fell. Well, sure enough, I went back again, couldn't find him, but I did see a trail, and a big wide trail where something had walked through from where I had killed this deer right here. And it was not a place that would have been a trail before. He just coincidentally, that's where the deer fell. And then all of a sudden you see this trail going through there. I spend the next day is Sunday, and I had church twice a day. I spent 6 hours between the two church meeting times looking for this deer. Couldn't find him. I went every afternoon that day whenever I could. Finally, that following Saturday, 6 days after that right there, and I found my 7-point deer, and it was stacked up on top of 5 other deer carcasses. And so that thing had stole my deer. I have also talked to I talked to a guy this year. It was really strange because I had picked up. He's one of the a prominent businessman here in Texarkana, and I had picked up his story that he had a deer that was he killed the deer, and the Bigfoot actually came and picked up his deer as well. And so he's got a couple of his friends that are helping him track it. And all of a sudden, Bigfoot gets tired of being tracked. It turns around, does some screaming, does some whooping like it's talking to another Bigfoot, and then a couple of tree knocks, and he realized, hey, I'm following the wrong animal. So anyway, he goes back and he says he can have this daggum deer. But this young man, about a month and a half ago, moved down here in my neighborhood. And so he recognized me, and of course I went and introduced myself to him. And I've got a pond behind the house, and he had his family down there, and they were fishing. I went down and introduced myself to him. He goes, "I know who you are." He goes, "You're the Bigfoot guy." I said, "Yeah." I said, "How'd you know?" He said, "Because I am the guy who was with this other prominent Texarkana businessman whenever this Bigfoot picked up his deer and took off." And he said, "We were both scared to death. This thing let us know after a while, I'm tired of being followed. This is my deer. If you want to push it, come on." So they actually do. Like I said, I've interviewed several people who've had their deer picked up and taken from them. And once Bigfoot claims something, they're very, very, that's one of the characteristics of Bigfoot. Anything that's Bigfoot's is Bigfoot's. Anything that's yours that he wants is Bigfoot's. And that's the truth. So anyway, he took that deer. They wasn't going to give it back. One time I took a limb from one of those X structures like what we showed a while ago to help me walk through the woods. Hey man, about 200 yards, I was being tormented by a Bigfoot over there. Just didn't like the fact I had taken his stick. I went back and put that stick in that X, and I went back to the house. So again, what they have is theirs. But let's see, can I read this question? So the question
Yeah.
is, do Bigfoot track you when you're hunting in hopes of yes, because, and I believe this because not only have I had it happen there before, where I've heard the actual noise in the brush over there, but the people that I've talked to, a couple of years ago, I was in Alaska, and there was not a salmon run that year. And so the places we went to, we could see them swimming underneath the bridge and everything. They were not there. But whenever we got there, we were in Anchorage, which, capital of Alaska, biggest, or not the capital, but right there close to the capital of Juneau, and one of the biggest cities in Alaska there. And the people were getting killed by bears on the trails inside the city limits, or the people who were doing the hunting. As soon as they shot the moose or where they shot, all of a sudden the bear is there on top of their kill, taking their kill. They had actually become to recognize this. We're talking about habituation as a dinner bell. When they heard the shot, they knew it was time to go because there wasn't abundance of food like there always was. So then there was a bear there. I promise you, Bigfoot does that. There is no doubt. Of the people that I've talked to, one of my friends there, if you'll read in my book, you'll read an account of a man named Randy Richmond. Randy Richmond is an ex-Army Ranger. He's a Native American, boy, a super, super smart guy. And he had one come get his deer. And so he was in Pineville, Louisiana, around at one of the bow shops up there. And he heard some guys talking, and it just struck a chord with him. So he just he didn't really eavesdrop. He just kind of listened just easily. And finally he goes, "Guys, I don't mean to eavesdrop." He said, "But are you talking about something coming up and stealing your deer?" And they goes, "That's exactly what we're talking about." And he goes, "What do you mean? Something like a Bigfoot?" And this guy goes, "There's nothing like Bigfoot." Well, this is Louisiana down around Cosachi National Forest. He knew right then what he was talking, and that's what they were talking about. So it does happen. What your brother had is more than likely a Bigfoot. Cats will come. Anytime a cat kills something, grabs them by the back of the neck, breaks their neck, and it'll drag it up a tree. But you'll have drag lines. When you don't have those drag lines and stuff, there's.
And this was the really crazy thing about that. There was no evidence of anything because I even asked them, "Did you look around?" There was no footprint, tracks of an animal, of a human being. It was just the blood trail from the deer that was running or walking and trotting, and then up and then gone. So how does that be? And I was like, then it brought me back to this thing about this quantum theory stuff, or even these portals. I mean, we've heard about all these things, and I think these things do exist. I'll say that. Ron Moorhead always says he's a believer now that if we're just made up of energy, they can convert their mass into energy and go from area to area in a wisp. They travel 5 miles by doing that. Or some people believe in the portals theory.
Right.
But my thing is, how did it escape out of there with the deer with no evidence?
And that's just because, again, you've probably heard me and other people say as well that they're better in their environment than we are in their environment. You know, they have, me and Stephen have actually found trails through the trees. Bigfoot can climb trees. Me and his
Yeah.
daughter were down there one night, and then he was with my son Reese. I was there walking down. All of a sudden, we got a Bigfoot charging towards us. And then I got her on my outside, and between where the Bigfoot was coming in, I said, just stand. Sure enough, also we hear what sounds like him hit that tree, scramble up that tree. So they can climb trees. They know they have certain trails. Bigfoot has trails that it goes to where its bedding area is. Bigfoot also has trails that it goes to where its hunting or eating area is. So, and that's something I've experienced. Like I said, that's not something I'm guessing about telling you. I've actually found the trails that lead through there like that. So it's really strange, but they are so good. What the good Lord gave them a set of survival rules. They have to be, man, to be some of these things to be, anywhere rumored from. Most of them that you'll see around here will be about 7 foot tall, but then you get in some like stuff's got a couple of 10s, but you've got people who've reported them being as tall as 14 foot. They have to have that set of survival instincts or techniques that the good Lord gave them, or else they would already be classified and people would shoot them every time they see them.
Yeah. I'm getting a message on my computer to tighten my settings for my internet. That's why it's kind of, for me, kind of bogging. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do that. It's take me 30 seconds. So while I do that, I'm not going to leave you hanging. I got a picture that you can talk to the people about,
Okay.
and then I'll come back. As I know you can talk anyways, but it's not going to take me but 30 seconds to do this. I just want to find a picture, which I want to hear. I'll be listening in the background. I'm going to throw this up right quick while I do this, but here it is.
Okay, what you're seeing right here, this is something I found just the other day. Now, you have to really look at it, but like I said, what that is right there, and there's no doubt in my mind because I've got others very, very close, that Bigfoot has picked up my camera and is looking at the camera. What you see, the two little black spots there, they're about 3/4 down on the right-hand side, is actually that Bigfoot's nose. And you look above that, and you can see the spaces there where the eyes are right there. And then, like I said, on the regular picture, you can see all a lot of the hair and stuff. But that was as much of the picture. He had it that close to his face that's as much of the picture as I've gotten. And so, but that's exactly what that is. I mean, I'm not having a case of pareidolia like that. I've got that on my phone. One of my main research techniques that I use is comparison. I'll go through there. Sometimes I'll find pictures of, like say, a chimpanzee or an ape. There's one named Bonnie on there that can actually whistle. I compared that picture there with the side view of Bonnie's face. Arkansas has got apes in it. I don't care what anybody says with science. Arkansas has got a brand of ape here. I've got an 8 footprint I found there on the banks of Little River. Toe is blade. Over here, there's a 3 fingers and it's 20 inches tall. It looks just like an orangutan track. But either that is one, and I have a creature here called, also we call them devil monkeys. They look just like a doggone, like a baboon or a mandrill, except the mandrill, has got all the different colors. But you see the nose is almost like they got the big old nostrils, and then they've got the teeth the very same way. And so we have those. So that's either a different classification of monkey. That's from the Ouachitas right there in the Ouachita Mountains, or else that is a Bigfoot. I tend to lean with that being a Bigfoot because some other pictures that I've got that I'm compared with. But like I said, that thing has got it so close. Y'all have seen the pictures that I've showed before where the Bigfoot is actually biting my camera. He's getting his camera in his mouth. You've got right here, you've got the teeth. And he's got it right there. I've got another there. The mama runs by and she's got a baby on her side. You can see 4 fingers here on the side, and here's this baby, and this baby actually has suckle mouth. He's asleep, and it's a close-up of the doggone baby. Sometimes you get stuff like that. I don't classify those until I have gone through them sometimes 6 months to look at. Well, this right here is, I wish it was clearer, but this actually appears to be a dog man right
Well,
here.
I can see that. I mean, I know, and again, these are one of these pictures that I've I seen right away what this was.
Yep. And me and Stephen have got them. We've actually got a picture of Dog Man. I think we've showed on your show and Duke's show there. We've got a picture of Dog Man. And this Dog Man is actually leading 3 Bigfoot up a hill, 3 mature Bigfoot up a hill. All of a sudden, the Bigfoot just kind of squat down, disappear. We see a baby Dog Man with this one here that runs over there and hides underneath the leaning log. And then as we're taking more, looking at more of the pictures, there's actually a mother Bigfoot. Looks like she's probably maybe 7 foot. That's escorting a juvenile away from all the quote commotion unquote, not knowing what's going to happen. But we sit there and we stopped and we watched that happen right there. But this is actually, like I said, it's down there. It's right there by very, very close to where we got that picture of that other dog man walking up the hill. And that is a dog man. You can also see probably what's underneath, where you can see what may be the snout and eyes. There appears to be a smaller one there that's kind of turned to the side right there. But that picture right there, when I got that, I'm like, oh shoot. But that's the cry of the beast sometimes. Sometimes you get the best you can. But you reckon, I mean, anybody reckon that is a creature in the foreground.
That's a creature. Yeah, absolutely. I do like that. And here's another one. This was hard for me to pick out.
Okay.
But then I did spot it. Well, there's two. There's one without the, a lot of people, oh, why is someone drawing a red line? I get that. But I got one with and without, and I looked at the one without, then I finally found it. But if we want to show the people here.
Okay. And folks, let me say this right here. I don't draw the lines around there because I need to see it. Like I said, I've been a deer hunter for years. I've trained my eyes to see just something. When you see a deer, you don't see a whole deer. You see a part of a deer.
Yeah.
That's what's the same way with this right here. But I outlined this to make it easier for anybody I show this to. They can see where it is, and then they can go back just like what you did, Rob. And then you can scrutinize. Oh gosh, I see this. You can see this Bigfoot right here. This Bigfoot's called Blackie. And he's about 10 foot tall right now. And I guarantee he'll weigh 1,000 pounds. And I've got about 2 more. I've had one encounter with him, a 7 or 8 minute stare down one day. And then I actually got another picture of Blackie. But you can see Blackie's head is turned to the left, just like that right there. Right here on the about the right-hand side of this picture, about 3/4 down, you can see that tube that we put apples in. And so he's back there trying to snitch an apple from the back side rather than go to the front, because I've got a camera about 10 foot in front of him. So he's trying to get an apple out of there. And sure enough, he just made the little mistake right there. But that's Blackie. And that is actually a Bigfoot. He's 5 foot wide at the shoulder. I mean, he's amazing, man. I mean, when I looked at that, I'm like, all right, here we go. And it shows where the red, you can see it there. And if you go back to it, you can see. But like I said, that's actually done to make it easier for people to see. These dudes are good at what they do, man. They're not just out there doing like Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck at the front of the Warner Brothers cartoons. They're actually hiding. They realize that if they're seeing, most of what can happen to them is not good. But that's him. That's Blackie back there hiding. And it's pretty common to have one. This tree right here is actually about 10 feet from what we call the Snickers tree. We got some nails stuck up in it. All right, there we go. So you can see the difference. And then once you've seen the red, then you go back and look. Oh man, I see this right here. But he's about not too far. Yeah, too far from the Snickers tree. We put the nails in, and so I'm sure he probably is responsible for about half my Snickers being gone as well. But that's Blackie, and folks, that's a real Bigfoot picture. There's like I said, I don't call that a blob squatch. You can see the outline of the sun hitting that beautiful black fur of his.
And the thing is, people might say that the black and back of it is all black, and just the trees are making it shape that way. But if people look at the head, it's extruded from the background.
That's right. Me and Daniel, when we were down there,
I actually see eyes.
Yeah,
I don't know
exactly. And you'll see in the Bigfoot pictures, like I said, their heads will be turned. Rarely do I get a picture of Bigfoot where his head is not tilted in some way. Me and Daniel went through there back in April. We went to the very same place and did a size recreation. And of course, Blackie's not standing there naturally. And like I said, but we did it based on to find the dimensions. Sure enough, he's about 5 foot wide at the shoulder. But I thought that was a really, really interesting picture. And like I said, he just let his greed for those apples and those candy bars get the best of him, and he got his picture to it. But
no, absolutely. And you got a lot of great other pictures. We're not going to show them. You've shown me off camera behind the scenes, a lot of incredible stuff. And so I did want to talk a little about, you got the new book. You got this book coming out, which is out. Now, you mentioned that you're going to come out with volume 2.
Right.
If you want to talk a little bit about that, how different is that going to be? This is your quest for the wild monster, basically. I mean, or Bigfoot. And how's the other book? And everybody, this is really inexpensive. You can find it, I think, on Amazon, wherever the links are in this. A lot of pictures. And what I like about your book, it's you can tell you wrote it from you with your personal endeavors, your personal mission. And there's a lot of great stories. And it's kind of like a personal biography, really.
It is 449 pages of 47 years of my life, and that's the
Yeah.
reason it's so thick, because I didn't want to break it up. It's actually almost from start to finish, but it's actually from phase one to phase two. Now, my new book that I'm coming out is going to be phase two until the present day, with maybe a story or two that goes back there from the very first there that's going to help make a point.
And yeah, absolutely. And I'm thumbing through this right quick, and I was gonna look. I can't find there was one of these chapters here. What was I thinking? Remember that? Yeah. What? Yeah. I know that's kind of funny. Chapter 7. What was I thinking?
Yep.
Was that with your wife? Was that with?
Yeah, it was a lot of that, because I had my wife with me there. I
Yeah.
had my son with me.
Yeah.
And I take them down to the woods. And the one show I did with Travel Channel, I hope y'all have seen it. If not, it's called on that right there. My episode of this show. Sometimes they call it "These Woods Are Haunted." Sometimes it's called "Fear in the Woods." But mine is called "This Is How I'm Gonna Die." I have my wife and son down there. My son is fixing to be a dentist. He's about to getting ready to graduate. I've got my wife with me, and so we're down there at the nighttime. And so me and Reese have been having encounters with this particular Bigfoot since December 9th of the previous year, 2013. Well, then this is Easter Sunday, 2014, which is about a 5-month period. And so I'm down there. There's nobody there. It's black, pitch dark. I didn't have a rifle. I just had a pistol, like I said, and that was just to kind of keep the hogs and stuff away. I've got my family there with me. And all of a sudden, this one decides he wants to charge. And it was very, very hairy. And like I said, I kind of waited till almost the last minute to see how things were going to play out, because I knew if there was going to be an encounter, I knew I was going to be in it. There wasn't any doubt about that. You kind of got to square yourself when you get in touch with your own mortality. You better man up. But then, like I said, that's my wife and my son. But I'm down there in the woods like that, and so I carry them with me. And my wife had been wanting to have an encounter. Well, sure enough, she did. Now she's like I said, she's actually gotten a picture of one. She's able actually to talk from her firsthand experience. And your husband's crazy. Why does he do that? No, my husband, he actually is telling you the truth about what has happened there in his life. But it was, man, like, that had to be one of the dumbest things I've ever done. Plus, to continue to go to the woods day after day after day. I had one the night after I saw the one there on the interstate, and I had gone down there to a friend's house to bring him some stuff. And so I was turning around and rode right by his driveway, and something fell off the back of my truck. And I thought, well, what was that? I got out to look, and it's about 1:30 in the morning. All of a sudden I hear boom, 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 walking towards me about 1.5 miles from Sulphur River. And I'm like, oh no, this ain't good. I reached in, grabbed my flashlight, started hitting the woods like that. Couldn't find anything. I'm like, but I knew it wasn't my imagination. I've been through this story too many times. So all of a sudden he starts walking a little bit more. And then he stops again. Like I said, he's sizing me up. Well, then I reach in there, and like I said, I carry a little sawed-off shotgun. I have no sawed-off shotgun just in case. Well, he makes one more case there where he starts walking a little bit, and he stops. Again, I'm looking behind trees, looking for eye shine. And they're, like I said, they're just really good at what they do. And I couldn't find the eye shine, but I knew what it was. It was heavy, man. I mean, heavy. And so whenever I did, I'm like, well, you better just back out of this gracefully while you still can, And so I did. And I went ahead and left and went home, called my buddy the next day. And he goes, yeah, he said, we heard some strange things down there. I'm like, yeah, I heard that strange thing that night too. So, but anyway, that's what it is. You're doing this thing, and you're out here with a creature or with a being that's not supposed to exist, but it does.
Yes.
And I've been fortunate to learn what I've learned by experience, but then it's also, there's not a playbook. Okay, Bigfoot will do this. No, Bigfoot will surprise you. Bigfoot does about what it wants to do, because it's, that's the way the good Lord made it. It made it that way for it.
There's not a Bigfoot for dummies book at Barnes and Noble. You're just not.
That's exactly right. That's a good way to put it, Rob. That's exactly right. I'm in my next book here that I'm writing. I'm going to write some things that I call classic Bigfoot behavior, things I have experienced, and some of them, each of them will do just basically the same thing, sometimes just every time. And that will be something that I'm going to touch here in this book as well. So I think it will be interesting as far as for that part. And like I said, as far as for what I did to get to where we could actually, Stephen and I and my wife and son, we could go out there and actually have these things, have the likelihood of finding or having a Bigfoot sighting, And like I said, she goes down there, and you can ask Daniel Becker. Like I said, Daniel went down there, and what I learned, and Daniel's first time in from Alaska. And so I told him, I said, he has a really great phone. And I was carrying the gun just in case. We got hogs, bears, and everything else. They all went there to kill a Bigfoot. I was there for the protection. But all of a sudden, Daniel's sitting there, and he's just taking, the grid pictures. And he goes over here, takes the grid picture and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden, we start looking through there, and standing there in a tree with a baby Bigfoot on his neck. And there's a hand right here in the middle. And there's a 10.5-foot Bigfoot standing right there that's in the same patch of woods we are while we're still standing in the woods. So Daniel, to his credit and preparation, he had actually lined up a photographer in Anchorage. He sent, he sent that picture back to that photographer, and she has some kind of device that draws a laser outline of what you've got there. And she goes, every filter this is run. She said, there's something in that tree. Well, knew that. Well, he's still there in the woods. But we were able to get up there and get a picture of a 10.5-foot Bigfoot, his first time out there. As I said, was it surprising? No, because my wife had done so about a month ago, before that, had actually got a picture of a Bigfoot like that. So it wasn't surprising. And that was something when you can go and you can kind of count on probably having decided. We went down there during the eclipse. I was kind of disappointed, but I wasn't. As soon as I got there, we went to the eclipse this year. We want to see how the eclipse would actually affect the animals and the Bigfoot. So as soon as we get there, I do what, like I said, I call it making a phone call. Just do a call, like a owl or something like that to get it to respond. I get a short response, and then I don't get anything else. And then the eclipse starts, and it just turns almost just black. Daniel's got a drone inside there that's actually filming the line going away. But when the eclipse stopped, man, everything. It went crazy. All of a sudden, it was like we were in the biblical account of the plague of the flies, because all the flies immediately just start coming around. Any of the other animals and stuff like that just had totally shut up. And then Stephen was in another place about 8 miles from us, and he said there's a town dog there. He said the town dog went to sleep and was almost like it was in a coma or a trance. They couldn't wake it up from being in that eclipse like that, and finally they did. Have no idea. But I was hoping they might come screaming out of the woods, and show everybody in the clan, but they didn't. But still, that was something that I'm putting into the quote vault back here, and maybe I'll have a chance to reflect back on that experience and see what happens again. So of course it's going to be a while before we get any more eclipses. But anyway, to do that right there, and it was pretty cool while we were down there doing that. I said the one call is all I got as soon as we got there after I did mine, and then that was it. So. That's one of those things that you just don't know. But like I said, you kind of store it in your back set of knowledge right there. And then all of a sudden something happens and what pops up, you're like, oh, yeah, I remember that. So
I just got a text message from my brother. My brother lives like 4 blocks from me. We live in the same neighborhood. And he was just having me watching the show. And he says, hey, thanks, Will, for trying to kind of answer what I experienced. He thinks you're cool. And he goes, oh, Rob, by the way, just to give you a heads up, in 6 minutes, I just talked to you, DTE, which is Detroit Edison. We will be losing power for 15 minutes as they were putting up new power lines.
Oh,
so
man.
I'm expecting to lose power here in the next 10 minutes. So with that being said, I'll wait on the power to go out for 15 minutes. I'm glad he gave me the heads up. Yeah. I got to ask, we got some time. I have to ask you, throughout your life, how is the experiences that you've had with these Bigfoot creatures, Sasquatch? Do you think it's had a change on your life as a person? Do you think you're a different person today than you were 30 years ago?
Oh, yes, sir. No doubt about it. Before, when the Fouke monster stories, when they came through, everybody down here, if you know people from not just Arkansas, but the South, their answer to something is to always kill it. You can take a look at the road signs down here. Nearly every road sign down here has got a buckshot imprint in from some redneck getting down and doing some target practice. But with me, it's made it to where, like I said, I appreciate these not just Bigfoot, but the other animals or whatever beings, where you want to call them, other beings for being what they are. And I don't randomly kill anything. If I can't use it, then I don't. It's the same with bass or fishing. I don't do it. So it's maybe where I'm actually realizing I'm more compassionate. I have seen Bigfoot Like I said, and I've seen a family group of them out there in the field, and I saw two twin brothers walking down the edge of the field. And like I said, those two twin brothers were sitting there just shoving on each other, and sitting there looking like they were talking to each other. I couldn't hear any audio because the wind was so strong. But to see the way they reacted, and then to see the mama with some of these babies that we have seen. I've got one that I sent you a picture earlier. She's carrying the baby across the field, big, beautiful brown coat. And I keep seeing something moving around. Well, I think maybe that she's waving at me, but I thought, well, maybe. But anyway, I sit there and blew the picture up. And in the middle, you can see this baby. You can see the baby's eyes down there. And then you can see mama's eyes and her snout right there. It's maybe to where I realize that these things are, like they recently said about elephants, they're more of a social animal than what we give them credit for being. Same way with being rescuing these dogs out here. All the dogs that I've got out here right there, they are such a social animal. As soon as they walk out, they'll greet, right now there's 8 dogs, rescue dogs at my house. They walk out and they'll actually, greet each other with the snout, and licking the snout and things like that. They actually groom each other. And so they do the same thing. Seeing Bigfoot has made me realize that there's a whole nother realm to this universe. It's not about killing, man. It's about acceptance of those things, because anybody that kills one, I'm sure there's still people say, well, that's what we got to have them classified.
Yeah, well,
as far as it goes, I say, well, then we just don't need them classified. They've been here all that time. If we got to kill one to do it, I just don't think for that, because like I said, they are there's mothers and there's babies. And I guarantee you, if you kill one and it doesn't work out good for you, because there's going to be a Bigfoot, another one coming with it.
I think that's such a, yeah, exactly. Like your point. I would never shoot and kill one, even though my experience was terrible. I even look at that day, I wanted to kill it. Probably, I will say,
right.
But and anyways, if you're dumb enough to line up a Bigfoot, and to me, many people say they never pull the triggers. It looks too much like a human, for one,
right.
Which good for them. You're not a murderer.
Right,
but
exactly.
even if you did, there's one. There's 4 other ones, or they got their lookout. You're gonna be dead. You won't make it out with the body because they're gonna kill you anyway.
That's exactly right. And just like the story with when you heard Rick Dyer, that last hoax he went through where he had it in the daggum freezer. Oh, well, we knew Bigfoot. There was all other Bigfoot all the way around. And when we drug it out, number one, you ain't going to drag out a 1,000-pound body without a
you're not.
truck. Number two, you're not going to make it out of there, because they are very, very, like I said, what's theirs is theirs. But they are very, very, very either what do you want to call familial, as far as being in family units, or else they're troops. They have a certain affection, or whether it's just one that they even count on for fulfilling a certain part of the troop. They have that on their troop. And so they're not going to let you get away with that. And so, again, like I said, I don't want to kill one. I don't want, if we have to have it to classify, I just say, just don't do it. Because if when you see what I've been fortunate enough to see, and it's, they're hilarious, man, sometimes. Like, we're their entertainment, some of the things they do. I've had them come up, put their hands on my vehicle. One night, Stephen put a Snickers bar outside my window up there in Oklahoma and didn't tell me about it. And I'm sitting there, we've all rented a cabin. I'm getting up, going to the restroom. I got my cell phone, so I'm using my light and everything. I come back, and just as soon as I get in the bed, I hear Bigfoot standing outside my window. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And man, I hadn't, even Mary Bolin, who was with us, she heard the same thing. Well, I didn't know Stephen had pulled that prank on me until the next day. And he said, well, man, I didn't tell you. He said, I put a Snickers outside your window. It was hilarious. It was almost like it knew that I was there, and it was going to, because everywhere I would walk, where my light was walking down this hallway, a rock would land on top of the roof. And that's the truth. And we found a bunch of rocks then that next day that what they were doing. So I don't know if I don't think it was malicious. I just think they're like, yeah, we know you're out here, and you're going to know we're out here too. So.
No, absolutely. Now, I got to tell you this before I don't know how long we got here, but I'll have to talk to you off air about this later. Maybe not today, because I don't think I'm gonna have to take care of my electricity now.
Right.
But here's the thing. I think that Bigfoot, they're socialized, as you had made mention. So if you think back about my experience, that's why today I think that mine was probably a rogue, or I think I think it got disbanded or kicked out of its clan or its tribe. Because typically, from what I hear, the ones that are really ticked off at humans are the ones that are taken or removed from their family unit.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point, Rob.
That's what I'm thinking mine was.
And you get some rogues. Story from a guy named Mike Woolley. Y'all might have seen it. Mike has recently passed away. There, Mike had two down the woods right around Shreveport down there that were charging him, fixing to get him. And boy,
Yeah.
he had his gun with him, everything. He actually took off running, dropped his gun, picked it up, and actually just shot back randomly just to try to keep him away. But me and Daniel got a chance to come down here in April with a man who actually has killed a Bigfoot. And the Bigfoot was charging him. Two of them were down there, and it was coming in to hurt him. And he said there wasn't any doubt in my mind, or I would not have shot it. But he ended up having to shoot the thing. And so then he said, man, it rolled around, everything like that. And he said, but I was dead if I didn't shoot it. And he actually, told us his story. And from that part right there, had it come after my wife and my son that night, that would have been the choice I'd have been left with. As far, and then I wouldn't like having to make that choice. But then also the same man had a deer killed in his yard about probably 8 weeks ago there, the Bigfoot had killed. Man, it's not a good looking sight right there. You realize how cruel a mistress Mother Nature is. But again, with Bigfoot like that right there, so they've got their own way of doing things. And when you go down there, if you go down there with a chip on your shoulder, like I've got this 12 gauge shotgun, I'm not afraid of you. You'll be afraid before you leave. And I believe that with all my heart. They understand our body emotions. That's why those kids and women tend to have more Bigfoot, positive Bigfoot relations or encounters than what the other people do. Because women are soft hearted. They've got the softer voice. They tend to recognize them, as being something that stands up, arms, legs, and everything. And then the children, the soft voice of children. Yeah. How many Bigfoot counts do you know of people that have, there've been one out there watching their kids on the swing and stuff like that? So it is, I think it's that they're interested in us. And man, anytime they wanted us, they could get us. There is no doubt about it. The ones I've had, some follow me through the woods there. I've had them actually cut me off. I've had them be around me. I never knew they were there till later. I actually had one on my show travel channel. Y'all will see there's actually a mama right there. She's got a baby right there on her chest, and you can see her leaning out. But she was there for 5 minutes throwing pine cones, sticks, and occasional rocks at me, trying to get me to leave her territory because she had a baby with her. And man, I was totally misinterpreting that. I'm like, oh, well, she's mad at me. No, she was probably just wanting me to just leave. And finally it clicked with me is what it was. And so I did. But there's so many factors, Rob, that go into it. But that's why I do this,
No, this is why I love doing what I do. I love doing what you do, what Duke does. I mean, everybody, the limited friends that I have, that I trust, I should say, in the field, right. Because that's always a problem with many people out there, getting somebody you feel comfortable with and knows they're not full of crap.
That's right.
But with that being said, I'm going to have to prepare for my electrical shutdown in a few minutes here. I'm glad that I got the forward by my brother. I'm glad he was watching the show. I'm glad you helped him out a little bit. I mean, more information we get, the better, right? This is all about data collection, right. Information, because without it, we're nowhere, but yet we still don't know anything, right?
I actually, in my book there, if you let him borrow your book and read, you'll read about those encounters where the deer were actually stolen. There was another stolen friend of mine from church. Didn't believe me. He says, there's no such thing as animal come up here and lift up this 250-pound mountain deer that's laying in the middle of the road. Next morning, whenever he went to his chicken house to check, he found out it wasn't drugs, something that picked it up and carried it off. So those kind of stories are in the book too. Folks, there's a lot of good stories in there.
Yeah, it is. I do recommend this book. Again, you can find it in this show. You can find it on Amazon. Where can we find this, Will?
Okay, you can find it on Amazon Kindle. Amazon has got the hard copy of that. Then you can find it on Amazon Kindle and Lulu Books as well. And and then too with Amazon, you can also contact me through Facebook Messenger. Like I said, I happened to get a few the other day that I've still got some left there that I had just had reprinted. And so if you actually want one, like I said, I can send you one. It'll be about, including shipping, all be about $35, something like that right there. So if you do that, contact me, send me your address, and I do PayPal and I think Venmo and everything. You'll see what I can send you one, because that way you get one that's autographed. The ones that you get from Amazon and stuff are not autographed. I autograph it. I don't charge for my autographs. Matter of fact, I owe you something other for being interested enough to listen to my story. So glad to do something like that.
No, that's awesome. And I do have an autographed copy, by the way.
Yes, you do.
So, yeah, I don't know if you guys can see that, but yeah, it's autographed. I appreciate it, Will. And again, as always, we'll have you back in another 3 months because I know it'll be another fascinating show. Everybody loves you. They always love when you come on. I love everybody that participates in the chat, that listens either later on today or tomorrow. If you're new, please subscribe to the channel. Buy Will's book. And with that being said, I got to skedaddle. I got to prepare for losing power for, I guess, 15 or 20 minutes here for whatever. There's always where I live. Well, the infrastructure where I live is pathetic. That's all I have to say.
The same way here. So I understand.
And
folks, we'd talk for 3 more hours if we had the time.
We would always talk. Oh, yeah. We could do a 5-hour show. I mean, you've been on this show about 6 times, which I do appreciate, by the way, and thank you.
Thank you, too. I appreciate you for that.
Absolutely. Thanks for everybody for coming on in. Until next time, for Will, it's BMR. We're out.
Thank you, folks. Appreciate it.
Are you ready?